Chansey went viral.
Really?
Yes, on TikTok.
A real influencer.
See, I always feel like going viral doesn't mean you become an influencer, but it does. Like, it caused a bunch of people to swarm my comments. It was right after the announcement that they were having to raise prices and stuff. People who'd never even heard of the term tariff. Tariffs are essentially a tax. It's a tax that the importer pays. You know, the tariff situation, what it was before and what it is now. We raise tariffs on every country in the world. Tariffs in general will probably never go away. The government ever want to invest in more American made, they're gonna probably invest in, even China's trying to get rid of some manufacturing because it's just not worth their time. The real money is gonna be made in technology, in infrastructure, in rockets. Like in this industry, why tariffs matter is because. Hey, before we start the episode, I want to ask a quick favor. Look, I'm the CEO of GRACE+EMMA, and I am so proud to be selling to thousands of small businesses across the country. One thing that is extremely important to us is to always support small businesses in any way we can. So this podcast that you're about to listen to is just one way we do that. Now, what would help me tremendously is if you can click the subscribe button down below and lend us a like on this episode. It really helps the algorithm, but really more than anything, it tells us that you're listening and that the information is valuable. And it really puts us in a position to get really good interviews on board and to increase the educational output. So with that being said, I hope you enjoyed the episode. Thank you very much. Chansey went viral.
Really?
Yes, on TikTok.
A real influencer.
Oh, not really. See, I always feel like going viral doesn't mean you become an influencer, but it does like help give you a little bit of an ego boost.
Yeah.
You know what it was about? Did you see it?
No, I didn't. Please tell me.
Okay. It was, so I was in Walmart and I started talking about how all the shelf labels were getting changed out, and it caused a bunch of people to swarm my comments because I basically was saying, oh, like prices are going up. So now Walmart's having to change their price labels out. And most of, I don't know, I mean, we use the sticker labels.
Yeah, ours is like, I guess ours is advanced because we have the digital ones, but
Fancy Walmart.
I know.
Well, I guess we still live near an older Walmart, but they literally had teams of people changing out these stickers. And it's like, I mean, it was right after the announcement that they were having to raise prices and stuff. So it's crazy stuff.
That is pretty crazy.
So have you been following along with like these retailers raising prices and whatnot?
Yes and no. You know, I feel like I learn something new about it every day. So-
Yeah, and isn't it crazy? Like people who'd never even heard of the term tariff now are like becoming like economic, like versed in global economics because
I've
of it.
noticed.
Yeah, it's so crazy. I mean, but you know, in a sense, the silver lining is we're all learning something new. And the tariffs thing is something that we've been wanting to talk about for Behind Brand Lines for a while.
Yeah.
Today's June 3rd, and by June 4th, we may have a whole new policy in place. So that's been kind of the nature of how tariffs have been handled since Liberation Day. So do you kind of know like the tariff situation, what it was before the 100-day mark or before Liberation Day and what it is now?
You know, I really was not that informed about it. I know a lot more now, but I really didn't. I had no idea.
Well, and for our listeners, you know, tariffs are essentially a tax, right? It's a tax that the importer pays from wherever they're importing from. So China, for example, was like the big one that was on the news a lot. But after Liberation Day, we raised tariffs on every country in the world, even our allies and everything. But it was because of how strong American consumerism is. The belief was that we should raise tariffs to even out the playing field and promote within domestic production of things. And so the big one was China. And, that's something that our president has been very consistent about even since the 80s, like since way before he was ever in office. Like he was always speaking that these other countries are taking advantage of how strong America is, like for their economy. But the reason why it's important to note, like in this industry, why tariffs matter is because the tax gets put onto the cost of the product. And so prior to 100 days ago or 150 days ago, tariffs were at about 10% coming in, right? Yeah. So if we paid the manufacturer $10 for something, by the time it would get here released, our cost before we even opened the box was $11, right? Then some of the spat happened between the two countries, right? Do you remember that?
I remember like it was yesterday.
Yeah. It was right before a trade show. We had set our pricing and it was so crazy. But it shot up to 145% because of that spat. Well, thank the Lord, like cooler heads prevailed. Early May, the two countries got together and they put a pause on the tariffs. And it wasn't just affecting the US, it was affecting China as well, right? So, and the main reason was like importers like us had stopped all of our shipments. Yeah. And that was across the board, whether you're importing cell phone cases or clothing or bags, whatever it was, like you now had to pay 145% tariff. And that was hurting Americans or American importers. We weren't going to shell out that kind of money to pay that. And God knows, like we would definitely not be able to absorb that. Right?
Yeah.
So, and then China was also having the issue of like their factories could not ship out the product anymore and they were getting stuck with the product. So it was like, it would kind of prove the point that how much these two countries need each other. It's not just one-sided. So we're in this pause now.
Yeah.
We're in like purgatory with these tariffs. And so now we're at 30%.
And even 30% just feels like a lot. Now knowing that we were at 10%, because even your $10 cost, then it goes to 13, and then that's before you even open the box.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's kind of the main thing about that.
Well, have you heard of Park?
Park.
Sweatshirts.
Oh yes. The most overhyped sweatshirts ever.
Yeah. So there's been like a lot of chatter on TikTok, YouTube about Park and just kind of the fact that they were kind of hiding where they were getting their products from, saying maybe it was Alibaba. People were like zooming in on these like TikToks and finding like pieces of paperwork. It was just like a crazy, crazy ordeal. So like, I'm just curious, what are your thoughts?
Okay, so I think the question is like, let's just assume they are getting it in China, right? This is way before your time, but there used to be these gold stickers that would get put on every product coming from China. And it would just be this tacky sticker that said made in China. It's like oval stickers. And there used to be a connotation of made in China as really cheap, bad quality. But then like made in USA, had so much more weight then, and it still does, right? Because we know the American quality is like what it is, and it's that American made still has weight all over the world. What we don't realize is China has made huge strides in manufacturing. Like when I say huge, like the last 20 years, they've invested so much in advancing their technology and advancing their quality. As clothing manufacturers, whether it's Park or GRACE+EMMA, like we can't find that level of workmanship anywhere else.
No.
It's really hard to find. So I'll even though I think the Park sweatshirts are very overrated, they're like, come on, they're like glorified like sorority sweatshirts. Like you can get those made at any kind of like local shop, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But more power to them. They have a brand, Park with an E, if you're looking to buy a $100 sweatshirt. But it's like they've now built that brand. And so what if they are getting in China, right? I mean, that's just what they decided to do. But that's also because the quality that comes from there, it's kind of unmatched globally now.
I see that.
So, I think in terms of a supply chain, we should also talk about like where we stand in the supply chain. So you see, we design everything here.
Yep.
We own the brand, we own the IP, we come up with all the ideas, we put it on the paper. We'll even play with different fabrics in house and stuff like that. There's swatches, right? And we'll say, okay, we want the cardigan to be of this kind of weight material and this exact color and this. Now we mock it up, right? Digitally and things like that. And then we send those designs to our manufacturer and they produce it to our specifications, right? So we are the owner of this product and we have decided to go the wholesale route of things, right? So once we import this stuff, we pay this tax and then we have this obligation of either absorbing it or passing it along. And typically we're wholesalers already working on very thin margins, but we use retailers as a way to, if they like the product and they want to make money on it, hey, here's your chance to carry Grace and Emma product and make your profit, right? So we'll sell it to you at a wholesale rate and you can turn around and sell it for what you think that your customers will pay for it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where we land in the supply chain. So naturally we can see like why we, especially with the type of product Grace and Emma makes, like you see why we go to China.
Exactly. You know what's also crazy is that the stigma with the China factories and how, it's made in China, so it's cheap. When we bought that Temu gingerbread cardigan, the uncooked cardigan, and that was a completely different random factory. You can see the difference. Like, yes, that one right there is that stigma, that made in China cheap feel situation. But then when you get ours, you can see there is a whole different world of factories down there.
Yeah, I think that's actually a really good point. People don't realize like how big the Chinese manufacturing is. Like I've been there so many times now where when you walk through these markets, like this same way you walk through Dallas Market or Magic, you see rows and rows of brands. Now multiply that by 10 and each of those have factories, right? So that's what China is. So you can go like the bottom of the barrel, super cheap quality, cutting corners, threads hanging loose like we found on the Temu cardigan, all the way to super, super premium, right? Yeah. Where you still have like high-end brands getting stuff in China and they're shopping with the super premium factories. That's a really good point. I mean, there's like a whole spectrum of factories there.
It just blows my mind how big it really is. Like that industry is insane.
Yeah. So, it is kind of like an interesting thought is like, well, is everything made in China? Right. And without getting too much into it, China's also going through this thing of like, their factories are starting to realize their cost of labor is going up. Their standard of living is going up. These are all great things. They're now building up their middle class, great things for their country. They're building up their middle class. Well, what happens is the middle class doesn't want to work in factories anymore. And so now China is even outsourcing a lot of their labor in factories to like Cambodia and Vietnam. And they're opening like factories in these other countries that are even poorer than China. So like if you ever see clothing now made in Bangladesh or Cambodia, or there's a good chance that that's a Chinese manufacturer who just said, hey, we'll just use them to make it. And then we'll work with it's insane how big this, like the production, the demand on China has increased where now they're using other countries to make their stuff.
This tariff talk has been crazy.
It really has. But, I think there's a lot of chatter on like, well, why can't we just buy American made, right? Like, have you heard that?
I hear that way too often, I feel like constantly. And I just I don't know, you know.
Yeah. So, well, America does a few things very, very well. I think uh, one thing that, to Trump's credit, the entire world, and I really feel this runs on American consumerism, right? Like what Americans spend money on, there's people benefiting from that in China, in Africa, in like all over the world. And it's not just physical products, it's technology as well. Take for example Shopify, right? Shopify is based in Canada, is a Canadian company, and the like 90 some percent of websites in the world, 90% of American websites, like e-commerce websites, are based on Shopify. So imagine if we ever said, oh, you're not allowed to use non-American technology, Shopify would die overnight.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
That's insane.
so that's an example of where it's not just physical products. Like America's strong, like very, very, very strong. And so to the current administration's credit, I think what they did do is they brought to light how much the world depends on America.
That's crazy. I did not know that Shopify was based in Canada.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So and there's a lot of like software and a lot of things that we do global that are based globally, but they are all depending on using American dollars for their funding, right? So that's what I was trying to get at. Was like Americans, what we do really well, like in terms of production, we do a good job with farming, right? So a lot of farmers sell to all over the world, including China. We do a good job with technology, right? Like from Apple to Google to Facebook, like all of these are American companies, and the world uses this software, right? ChatGPT, right? Like, this is all an American product. And then one thing we take for granted is our American culture. And that's like our entertainment, music, those kinds of things, like those are shared around the world, right? So those are kind of our exports, right? Like people import that stuff in, they use our technology, they use our software, they use our music and our entertainment, they use our consumerism, and that's how their countries run. Where I think we miss the mark is we get caught up in we need to do American made.
Yeah. Well, speaking of American made, I actually went to Target the other day and was looking at all of the things that I use on a daily basis. And I went and looked at the tag, and a lot of them were made in America, but most of the products to create that were all getting imported. So then I'm like, well, I guess I got to stock up on my toilet paper because all the materials are imported. You don't even think about it because it's not always technically made in America.
Yeah,
Fully.
I mean, if there was one hack that someone was telling me when this whole tariff thing happened was, hey, you can just find a American manufacturer to like you can bring in unfinished goods. So I can literally import sleeves separately. I can import the body separately and the button separately. Everything is still made in China, but all the pieces I've now assembled it in America, and I can slap a made in America, made in USA logo on or a sticker on it. And that it kind of defeats the purpose, right? Like if we really are talking about bringing US manufacturing back, like that defeats the purpose. No, even farming uses Chinese parts. They use farm equipment made in China. They use hoses for watering made in China. Like, so the point here is rather than having this shtick that we need to do American made only, I think the healthier conversation is realizing we are in a global economy, that the world is more connected than ever before. It's never been more connected, and how we can make sure that the countries learn to work together and not one country take advantage of another, right? So for example, like, China not only owns a lot of our debt, like we owe a lot of money to China in terms of like America borrows money from China quite a bit, right? Well, we're also borrowing that money to then go buy their product as well. So it's a double whammy. So I think like a good like solution would be, hey, if we're borrowing money and buying product from you, give us the best interest rate, right? Like, or give us favorable borrowing rates. And I don't want to get too technical about this, but you know, I will be honest, like fashion is so bottom of the totem pole when it comes to importing. Like the amount of stuff that is on the discussion when we talk about tariffs and importing is there's a huge spectrum of it. Have you heard of NVIDIA?
Mm-mm.
Okay, so NVIDIA is an American-made chip company. They are the most valuable company, I think, in the world now, like or top 5 for sure. But what they were able to do is they said that we were always buying our chips from Taiwan, right? That's where a lot of the chip manufacturing happens, like Intel, AMD, all those happen in Taiwan. Well, NVIDIA, this guy, he said, I want to do US chip manufacturing and focus on gaming, metaverse, and AI.
Mm.
And if you know, all 3 of those are exploding right now.
Yep, especially AI.
So those AI chips that NVIDIA produces are wanted all around the world. So there's like, I mean, China's trying to compete in the AI race right now. They're unable to because they don't produce AI chips. They would have to get it from Taiwan. Taiwan doesn't produce AI chips either. It's just NVIDIA that does the best ones. So now what America is doing is saying that if you want to sell to the US, or if you want these NVIDIA chips, you need to give us favorable interest rates, or there needs to be something else that, so in some senses, like it kind of was this big shock to the whole trade world when all of this happened. But I think in some senses it brought to light what America does really well. And that is technology. We're, you know, and the idea of us winning in AI should be important for everyone. Like for all Americans, like winning in AI is going to be a very, very important thing for our country. Where I think people need to kind of get it out of their head is like American made clothing though. It's just not viable. Do you agree?
I agree too. I think people just need to kind of look at the big picture before you kind of just narrow in on it has to be American made, because like we just explained in the last, couple segments, that you're still getting just as good quality.
So what now? Like a few things that, boutiques, we're sharing this information with boutiques and retailers. Like we're about to enter market season, gift markets coming up, apparel markets next week. Like, what kind of advice can we give everyone? And I think there's like 4 things that we've kind of outlined that would be good. They're kind of general. So, but being proactive with your buying plans, understand that some brands have had to raise prices. So if you're going to be proactive and you go and meet with a bunch of brands, go ahead and try to lock in a price now. So one thing that we are saying to our customers is if you're going to put a deposit down and you're going to commit to your order, then we will absorb any fluctuations on the tariffs, right? Like that's something we said, right?
Yes.
The flip side of that is if someone who's going to come in October 1, when we're releasing Christmas to buy all their Christmas, whatever the landed cost will be, if it's higher than what was at market, that's just, it is what it is. Like we're unable to absorb it for anyone who didn't pre-plan with us.
I agree.
I think diversifying sourcing is going to be more important than ever. So if you are buying from just 1 or 2 brands right now, and we hope we're one of those 1 or 2, but we are also recommending, because one of our missions is to always do what's best for retailers, is to recommend you to look at all sorts of sources. Don't just it doesn't just mean clothing. It could be like a mixture of made in America and made in China, or it could be more accessories. It could be more cosmetic products. There's so many different things you can bring in to really diversify your offering. And then you should talk about this one, talking to your reps.
Yeah, I think you should talk to your rep and really get comfortable with this whole idea as well. I mean, I think all of this is built on trust and honesty. And, you know, if your rep is telling you exactly what is going on, I know for me, I've, you know, had this explanation, this talk a couple times, and, you know, I just say the truth. I say the honest, you know, everything that is actually going on in real time. You know, it's crazy how fast this whole process has been. So just getting clarity, and not only that, it just makes you feel comfortable and you feel better about going to market. You don't feel like you're getting swindled.
Yeah. And I think the last one is like educating yourself, but also your customer. Like, I think there's been so much misinformation through all of this is like, well, we just need to do American made, and we just need to buy clothing that's just made in America. I wish we could do that. Like, nothing would make me happier than to be able to get the same workmanship at a reasonable price in America. The fact is that it's just not possible. We are so far away from that. And then there's a whole other discussion of like, well, maybe America should start investing in manufacturing in the US. Well, as I had mentioned earlier, even China's trying to get rid of some manufacturing because it's just not worth their time. The real money is going to be made in technology, in infrastructure, in rockets. Like, those are things we're already winning in. Like, if you look at Boeing, right? It's top two plane manufacturer. The whole world wants to buy Boeing planes. If you look at SpaceX, what Elon Musk is doing with rockets, like, and being able to do this is an American-made company. It's an American company. We should be proud of that. And then when you look at what NVIDIA is doing with AI chips, if you combine those three, that surpasses every other consumable like clothing industry ever. So bringing like if the government ever want to invest in more American made, they're gonna probably invest in technology, rockets, satellites, the things that are really where high dollars come. So the chances of us doing clothing American made again is very low. Like, I put my money on it. Like, it's very unlikely that we bring American manufacturing back for clothing.
Yeah, I mean, you know more than me about that one. I highly doubt it. I feel like ChatGPT is gonna rule the world.
Really? You know, and that's going to be, we got to do an episode on that. It's like AI automations and stuff. That'd be fun to do.
We really do.
But look, right now, again, I said this is June 3rd. We're at 30% right now, and tomorrow could be, you know, 275%, or it could be down to 3%.
Yeah, we don't know what's gonna happen next.
Yeah. Well, and I hope the pause ends with like a good agreement in place. I think cooler heads always do prevail. And I'm really confident in the leadership on both sides that they're gonna do what's best for both countries. Now, look, tariffs in general will probably never go away. There's always going to be this belief of like, you know, that, hey, if you're using another country to make the product, then you need to pay a little bit more on it. And, you know, as long as you understand where you stand in that supply chain, you'll be able to understand your markup, your profit margin, which brands you want to work with, which brands you don't want to work with. You know, there's been the big question mark is like, have we had to raise prices? And initially we did, because we saw the 145%. We said, okay, we'll at least have to raise it by 40%.
Yeah.
Well, once they came down to 30, we said, let's go back to the original price, and we absorbed everything. And so it's really going to hit our margins, but we really want to continue supporting retailers.
Yeah, I agree. And honestly, just staying ahead of everything, asking questions, and start to adjust before you're forced to. I mean, in this industry, I feel like it's so, so important to stay flexible and adjust to the market because obviously we know the fashion industry changes, trends, everything is constantly evolving, but it's not just that. It's every single little aspect that goes into it.
Yeah. The more you know, guys. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Hit follow if you're on YouTube, or hit subscribe if you're on YouTube. Hit the like button too. I heard that's like a thing that we have like people watching us and they don't subscribe to us, and that breaks my heart because we get a bunch of views on YouTube. The information is definitely valuable to people, but what we want to make sure is that you guys are subscribed and you guys are in the know on the earliest stuff. And if you're seeing this or if you're listening to this on Spotify or Apple Music, please give us a positive rating. We'd love your feedback. We do this because we want to continue to support retailers any way we can.
Like, comment, and subscribe.
All right. Cheers.